Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Pre-Market PulseScan with yours truly, Dex, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com. A little late start this morning. I was hoping to get rid of these hiccups. I've tried everything under the sun, and they will not go away. I've had the hiccups since late yesterday afternoon, and they are still here. Went away for a while, and then came back this morning when I got up. So, crazy morning for me, no doubt. All right, so there's a lot going on this morning. The opening bell has already rung, and Lagarde is speaking about the ECB and what their interventions are going to be as far as bearing on the market. The Dow has since went from positive to negative, and the NASDAQ is also well off of its overnight highs. S&P is also negative. Russell just turned negative. It was positive. A lot going on, just a lot going on. So let's take a look at these weird gyrations, and then we'll get into some things this morning. We need to talk about some things. All right, so Dow futures now down 215 points. It's 26,189, just bouncing off for the 26,162 just hit a moment ago. NASDAQ 100 is up 49.25 points at 11,186 and a half. Even the S&P 500 down 10 at 32.53.5. Russell My Hustle down 11.9 at 1526.70. The Bitcoin Futures Composite Index is unchanged at 13,175. Nat gas is down 13 cents at $3.15. And crude oil is down another whopping $2.40 per barrel. Now trading at $35.02 per barrel. I tell you, ignore these crash alerts at your own peril. Long bond is only up 6/32, trading at 174 and 7/32. Gold futures got smashed this morning, down whopping $14.90, trading at $1,864.80 an ounce. Silver taking it on the chin again this morning as well, down 29 cents at $23.06 an ounce. The euro dollar is off 62 pips at 117.01. Pound sterling off 85 at 129.12. The Aussie is off 47 at 70.14, and the US dollar index is up 44 at 93.85. Soybeans down 5.25 points this morning at $10.49 and 3/4, and corn is down 5.75 at $3.95 and 3/4, and wheat is off 5.75 points at 6.03 even. And that's how things are shaping up this morning, from switching from overnight markets to now the day session. So if you missed last night's end of day report or the past couple end of day reports, you probably need to listen to those after this, because I've been given some particular insights on some of these markets as far as what you can expect moving forward. Okay, so definitely you want to take a look at that. And all you guys in the live chat, you know what to do. Go ahead and smash that like button. All right, NGOX, whoever you are, welcome. But nope, I am not wanting to become famous. I've never wanted to be famous. Trust and believe when I say this. I had my opportunity to become famous in real life, and that's straight up, no cap. I will never buy followers, okay? I will not do any of those things. I don't have to pay for views and clicks, okay? It's just not something that we do here. I don't need to. My name speaks for itself. My 10-year track record on YouTube also speaks for itself. All of my videos are here. I've never taken not one of them down. Win, lose, or draw, all of my stuff is right here for all to see. going back a decade, man. So nah, I don't need to do that. I don't ever want to do that. I don't care about fame. You know, break me off the money. You can keep your fame, because with fame comes notoriety. Then you can't go nowhere. You can't do nothing. You live in a glass house. I've always enjoyed my anonymity. Sorry, and being incognito. You know what I mean? I stick to these markets and helping other people to make coin. As far as I'm concerned, people know where I'm at. They know PulseWaveTrading.com. They know what me and Frank be doing. They know about Jen, our incredible executive assistant. They know what we do over here at PulseWave. We don't be playing around. And when I'm not on the air, I'm trading, and I'm in the lab working on new algorithms and keeping the system flowing and making sure that my subscribers are making that money, consistent money. That's what it's about. Forget notoriety and fame. Who cares about that? If people ain't making money, forget that. I'd rather people make money. I don't need you to mention my name or none of that. That's what we about over here. All right, so we got a lot of mixed movement right here at the open. A lot of volatility. But that's what we were expecting. It's not like, ooh, we're taken off guard. Look at all this nonsense. No, we're moving closer to the elections. And there's literally so much going on that people are really just getting depressed. People are getting confused. Some people are just getting angry. They're tired of all the lies and the shenanigans. And I'm just saying, it's a lot going on. All right. Some people calling for Armageddon. Some people are saying, nah, it's the best time to buy stocks when they're falling apart. We got U.S. GDP soaring by a record 33.1% in Q3, smashing all expectation. We got the ECB, Lagarde, speaking right now. She's going to hold rates steady, as if you thought she was going to do anything else. Her QE is unchanged, just like the U.S. central banks, but the risks are still tilted to the downside. You think? Then we have 1.7 million people without power, without electricity, as Zeta batters the Gulf Coast. That's right. But then we got another issue. We got the pandemic emergency jobless claims soaring to a record high. So while overall jobless claims fell, which they massaged it that way, the numbers down, the emergency claims are just on fire. If the emergency claims for stocks, people will be getting paid right now. Okay. And there's a lot going on. Okay. And look at something else too. I can remember a time, and this is sad, where our economy was not badly reliant on bailouts from the federal central banks, from the private central banks. We need them to bail out the market with free money. Then we got all these record bank rescues and stimulus packages. I don't remember a time in history that it wasn't like that. It's supposed to be a free market, but there's not too much freedom about the market right now. There's too much intervention. It's crazy. And I was looking for some kind of a dead cat bounce, but it's looking like the market can't do it. Market has fallen and can't get up. This is not a good sign. All right. Markets are supposed to dead cat bounce after a parabolic bar. Sometimes you'll get a trading range of pretty narrow inside bars going for several days before the market shakes out what direction it should be taking. And I was really hopeful that that would happen today, because that would be good news for investors. But so far, it is looking crazy. It is looking crazy out here. I have been, let's see, I have seen so much news. I know for a fact I'm at least 3 weeks behind on market news. And I'm just keeping it 100 with you. That's just what it is right now. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So I'm just gonna. I mean, there's so much that they're even keeping out the mainstream media. There is so much I need to talk to you guys about, and I'm gonna be honest. For the first time in a long time, I really don't even know where to begin. I literally don't know where to begin with you this morning. And to me, that kind of sucks, because I'm really never at a loss for words. You know, I can talk for hours about so many subjects and so many things, but you know, I'm always gonna keep it 100 with y'all, man. You know, I got to do that. And right now, I'm just saying, it's looking crazy. There is a reason they took off the House of Cards or off the air. I told you that. And they found the perfect way to do it with that Me Too thing. You don't even hear about Me Too anymore because it served its purpose. So now it's gone. You don't need it. It did what it was supposed to do. So the predictive programming that we saw in House of Cards, if you haven't seen House of Cards on Netflix, I highly recommend that you do so. You will be very rewarded if you have the insights, the wherewithal to read between the scripting. One of the episodes dealt with the electoral crises, and the sitting president, Frank Underwood, aka Francis Underwood, it was looking bad for him. Like he was going to lose this election. Him and his wife were power hungry, and they wanted to be in the White House. They wanted that power. So he pulled a rabbit out of his hat and figured, I know what I can do. If I shut down the polling places in certain areas, and this one specific one was in North Carolina, and the way to do it was national security. So if we have a credible threat of a national security risk, and in order to get the state to go along with it, he had to twist a couple of arms. All right. Well, back in the news. Now I gave you the pretend. Now you the news, because guess what? House of Cards was 5 years ago. That was 5 years ago. Supreme Court deals double blow to Republicans in Pennsylvania, North Carolina ballot battles. That's right. That is breaking news. Okay. See how we go from scripting to real life? Yep. With freshly confirmed Amy Coney Barrett standing ready on the sidelines, the already supposedly conservative-leaning Supreme Court dealt a double blow to Republicans tonight over mail-in ballot cases in 2 key states. First, the Supreme Court said it will not intervene before the election to stop Pennsylvania officials from receiving mail-in ballots up to 3 days after the election, refusing a Republican request that the High Court expedite review of the issue. With this is a loss, WAPO reports that there's a modest silver lining in the 3 conservative justices, indicating the votes ultimately might not be counted, and signaled that they would like to revisit the issue after the election. That's right. The Supreme Court voted 5-3 to allow absentee ballots in North Carolina to be received and counted up to 9 days after the election. That's a win for the Democrats. That gives them more time to manipulate those paper ballots in their favor. Now, the justices on Wednesday refused to disturb a decision by the State Board of Elections to lengthen the period from 3 to 9 days, pushing back the deadline to November the 12th. The board's decision was part of a legal settlement with a union-affiliated group. Again, backdoor deals. Under the Supreme Court's order, mailed ballots postmarked on or before Election Day must be received by 5 p.m. on November the 12th in order to be counted. 3 conservative justices, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Clarence Thomas, dissented. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. It all came down to North Carolina on the show. That's what's happening again in real life now. It gets curiouser and curiouser. How about this one? Fighter jet intercepts non-responsive plane near Trump rally. A General Dynamics F-16 fighter jet intercepted a plane that breached restricted airspace near President Trump's rally in Bullhead City, Arizona, Wednesday afternoon. There's a video that shows Trump looking up at the sky as the fighter jet fired off warning flares. He told the crowd, "Oh, look at that." The fighter jet gave the president a little display. That's right. After the incident, North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, haven't heard that one in a long time, have you? NORAD officials tweeted that the plane was intercepted around 1400 MDT after it breached the temporary flight restriction area surrounding Bullhead City. A second tweet from NORAD said the plane's pilot was non-responsive to initial intercept procedures, but established radio communication after NORAD aircraft deployed flare signals. NORAD continued, the aircraft was escorted out of the restricted area by NORAD aircraft without further incident. Very interesting. What was all that about? Was that to send a message, perhaps? Something to think about. It should be noted that President Underwood did have to undergo an assassination attempt on the show. And so did his wife, Claire. Yeah. So we have theater imitating life, or theater giving you the future of what is to come. So you have to be asking yourself a very important question this morning, and that's how long will it take to count all of these votes? That's a very good question. For months now, American people have been told that we may not know the winner of the presidential election right away like we normally would. So if we're going to have a winner on November the 3rd, when will we finally have a clear result? Well, that is going to depend on how long it takes to count these paper votes. And that is going to be different for each state. Now, I know that this is a frustrating answer, but every one of our 50 states has different election laws, and things have been greatly complicated in 2020 by the fact that so many people will be voting by mail. That's right. So far, more than 60 million Americans have already voted by mail. And that number just keeps growing with each passing day. Some states allow mail-in ballots to be counted before Election Day, but a majority of states do not. Majority of states won't start actually counting ballots until the morning of the election day or after polls close. So you won't really know anything until later on the following morning, really. Most counting rules have remained unchanged this year, though some states have adjusted their timelines due to the pandemic to ease the burden of increased absentee ballots. So that means that there will be tens of millions of waiting to be counted in addition to all of the ballots that come in on election day. Now, I know you can see the nightmare, right? The handwriting on the wall, and you're not wrong. So think about it. Don't you feel sorry for those people that have to open up all those ballots and get them counted, because that is going to be a monumental task, a nightmare task. All right. There are 6 key swing states that are pretty much going to determine the outcome of this election. And 3 of them, the lack of a sufficient head start in counting ballots is likely to greatly delay the already up to 2-week voting results. The final results in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan could be unclear on election night because these states are expected to be the 3 slowest to count the high volume of absentee ballots. The reason? Pennsylvania and Wisconsin don't allow the processing of mail-in ballots to begin until election day, and Michigan only has a 10-hour start compared to other states that can start the process days or weeks in advance. Remember, this has all been done by design. Changing the way that we normally vote is done by design. The pandemic was a convenient excuse to make this happen. Remember that. Whoever wins Pennsylvania is probably going to win the presidency, but it could be quite a while before we get final results from that state. You see, the truth is that counting mail-in ballots is much more tedious than running normal ballots through a machine. There are several steps involved, and each step takes time. Processing absentee ballots generally includes steps short of tabulating them, such as removing them from the envelope, confirming voter eligibility, matching signatures to what's on record, and then scanning them. And on top of everything else, sometimes unexpected problems do occur. For example, ballot counting machines in one county in Texas have been rejecting about 1/3 of mail-in ballots, and authorities are scrambling to get this issue resolved. Ballot scanning machines are rejecting about 1/3 of mail-in ballots returned by voters in Tarrant County. The problem has impacted more than 22,000 ballots. That's a lot of ballots. That is a lot of ballots. Now, ballot board members are now working in 12-hour shifts to accurately replicate the ballots so they can be counted. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Unintended consequences. The DNC is having a field day with this. So you thought that the pandemic would accomplish only one thing, but it's accomplishing quite a few things for them. Crazy, isn't it? I know. You will want to vote in person to give yourself the best chance of having your vote actually count. In addition to everything that has already been discussed, it is important to remember that mail-in votes will continue to be accepted in many states long after the election day is over. Bizarre, right? But this is what is actually going to happen. In fact, Washington State will count votes that are received as late as November the 23rd, you guys. The last day to vote in person in a general election is November the 3rd. So we're talking 20 days after the general election. Absentee and mail-in ballots also typically must be received or postmarked by that date, if not earlier, depending on the state's rules, of course, but that leaves some room for mail-in ballots to be received after Election Day. In Washington State, mail-in ballots received as late as November the 23rd are still valid as long as they were postmarked by November the 3rd. Surely you're saying, what a bunch of foolishness. But at least, I mean, that sounds fair, right? Well, don't forget, it says they have to be postmarked. Are you hearing me? They have to be postmarked. That's the key. They have to be postmarked rather that's a manual person manually postmarking the mail, or a machine. What if, all right, we'll look at two different scenarios. We're going to look at a practical one, then we'll look at a conspiratorial one. That sounds neat. Practically, if your local mail carriers, if your local mail building where you live is overwhelmed and they're weeks behind, because let's say tens of thousands of people sent in their mail-in ballots, but they have yet to be postmarked. That's not your fault. That's the failure of the postal system, because everything has to be postmarked. So if you sent your thing in weeks beforehand, or even months, and it doesn't get postmarked, that is not your fault that your vote may not count, especially if it's a vote for Trump. All right, something to think about. Okay, has to be postmarked by November 3rd. How much you want to bet? Now go to the conspiratorial side. The conspiratorial side of this will suggest that thousands of Trump votes will not be counted because they will not be postmarked by November 3rd on purpose. I'm just saying, be prepared for that. National polls have shown that Biden voters are much more likely to vote by mail, and Trump voters are much more likely to vote in person. The votes that are cast in person will be counted very quickly. Meanwhile, the votes that are sent in by mail will take weeks to fully count. They could even be months. Depends on staffing issues at the post office. You know what I'm saying? People don't like thinking about that, but these are facts that you have to deal with. So national polls are going to be an issue with these paper ballots. The mainstream media and the big tech companies have been working very hard to mentally prepare us for a massive blue shift after Election Day. If you look at all the commercial ad campaigns that are running, not just on the internet, but also on cable TV, regular TV, all of that. They're running everywhere. Netflix, Prime, everywhere, telling you that Biden is going to be the victor. According to this statistics, in this poll and that poll, in this Gallup poll and that Gallup poll, we got Biden ahead by whatever percentage. The bookies are even saying, yeah, you know, the bookies around the world, including in Las Vegas, all favor Biden to win this election. You'd be an idiot to bet against it, right? Remember, these are the same lames that told you that Brexit was a done deal on the night of the election of 2016. They told you that it was a done deal, and that the bookies and even the people, the odds makers in Vegas, told you it was the overwhelming odds, and you'd be a dummy if you bet against this Brexit. They even trotted out talking heads on live TV to say that it's a done deal. And then when it wasn't, a lot of people lost a lot of money. Do you think the bookies took those bets, or do you think they took the opposite of those bets? Did they do a market okie doke on you? The market okie doke, for the uninitiated, is when you pump up stocks. Tell everybody and their mama, you need to buy XYZ stock. Look at it. It is on fire. You don't want to be the one that misses this opportunity. Meanwhile, as the prices are going up, those at the top are taking profits along the way. And then at a certain point, they begin accumulating massive short positions. Once the price falls, you're still left holding the bag, because you're being told you got to keep buying. As the price dips, you got to buy. This is going to be a massive, amazing move. If you missed the first leg up rally, then you definitely don't want to miss this next one. And then you're buying all the way down to zero. And they've already made money on the way up and on the way down, and you were the ones that lined their pockets. They're doing the same thing to you this election, telling you that Biden is the favorite to win. And he's not going to win without them doing some elaborate trickery with these paper ballots. And they know it. That's why they're spending tens of millions of dollars to pre-program you, to propagandize you to that idea. They want to get you used to the idea so that you won't think it's strange when they tell you, okay, it's official, he won. The fiasco with these mail-in ballots are going to be ridiculous. And it could even make people start rioting and looting even more. I'm just telling you what I know. Now, one of the reasons why they are so adamant that Trump should not declare victory on November the 3rd is because they are confident that Joe Biden will ultimately win once all the mail-in ballots are fully counted. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? In some states, we will have final results almost immediately, but in other states, counting could take quite a few weeks, if not months. But the counting cannot take too long because the law election results may be officially certified by certain deadlines. According to Ballotpedia, citing state law, 6 states must certify election results within a week of the general election. Okay, that's 6 states. 26 states and Washington, D.C. have a deadline between November the 10th and November the 30th. 14 states have a deadline in December, you guys. 14 states have a deadline in the month of December. And 4 states do not have deadlines in their state laws at all. Among key battleground states, those deadlines range from November the 11th, Pennsylvania, to December the 1st, Nevada and Wisconsin. For potential battleground Texas, it is December the 3rd. So all but 4 states have deadline laws. How much you want to bet those 4 states that have no deadline laws will push it out as long as the DNC tells them to? How much you want to bet? That's why I say you could go for months, ladies and gentlemen. You could go for a long time. A very long time. Unbelievable. I don't know how some of these states are going to possibly meet those deadlines, though. And particularly, I have no idea how Pennsylvania is going to be done counting by November the 11th. Hopefully, they have a vast army of counters and a whole lot of coffee. To give you an idea of how long it takes to count mail-in ballots, just consider what happened in California earlier this year. Consider this year's California primary, in which 5.8 million people voted for president. Only 3 million of the 5.8 million of those ballots were counted by election night. The other 2.8 million votes took an additional 7, not days, not hours, not minutes, not seconds, 7 weeks to count. That's almost a month and a half, people, said John Covenant, a pollster and political analyst. If it took California 7 weeks to count a couple of million mail-in ballots, how in the world is Pennsylvania going to count a similar number of mail-in ballots in just 1 week? Not to mention the National Guard has been called in to Pennsylvania. They got a lot of chaos going on over there now. Then this could spill over into election night, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So prepare yourself. I believe this election is going to be a colossal mess, worse than the hanging chads, butterfly chads, pregnant chads of 2000. All right. There's a lot of voting anomalies that have already been popping up all over the nation. Okay. And I believe that counting all of those mail-in ballots is going to take much more time than anticipated. And any legal battles over the counting of the votes will just make the process even more painful. Okay. We were once a great example for the rest of the world, but in 2020, we're going to show the rest of the planet the exact wrong way to conduct an election. And that is one of the hallmarks of the collapse of the United States of America. Handwriting is on the wall, people. deal with it, take of it what you may. But this is a country under stress right now, great stress. Now, another piece of news that has come across has been something that I've been talking about for a long time, and that's technology. And I went into depth about why, there is no collapse documentary. I talked a good bit on technology. And I've been talking about it, every now and again. And this is something that has been really kept out of the mainstream media for the most part. They've just dodged this. But yesterday you couldn't dodge much. Now, could you? With those hearings on national security. But guess what? Just like in House of Cards, guess what? Did you know in House of Cards they also had the same hearing, a technology hearing? Yeah, man. NSA dodges questions about controversial backdoors in tech products. I told you that most, if not all, of your technology has backdoors built into it for the government, for national security is what they say. Now, Edward Snowden's whistleblowing campaign exposed the National Security Agency, better known as the NSA, in 2013 for having backdoors into commercial technology products. Now, the U.S. spy agency worked with some Silicon Valley tech firms to develop covert methods of bypassing the standard authentication or encryption process of a network device so it could scan internet traffic without a warrant. And that's just what you know of, okay? Snowden revealed that the NSA's special sauce and how it conducted domestic and foreign backdoor operations to collect vital intelligence resulted in the agency's reforming its spying process. So they say. That's a public relations thing. Doesn't mean it actually happened. And so they had to formulate new rules to limit future breaches and how it conducts spy operations. 3 former intelligence officials told Reuters. Don't forget, the FBI has an actual office located in Facebook. Yep. FBI has an office inside of Facebook headquarters. Don't forget that. Okay? Hard to get around that one. Hard to debunk that, isn't it? I've worked in many a corporate office, even at banks, and I never seen the FBI have a private office located there. Sorry. Never. Never, never, never. None of the Wall Street firms I worked at had that. None of the banks I work with had that. I'm hard pressed to find any type of a corporation or corporate entity that had a FBI station office located in their headquarters of operations. Just never seen it. However, a recent inquiry into the new guidelines by Senator Ron Wyden, a top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, yielded absolutely nothing as the spy agency dodged all questions. Quote, secret encryption backdoors are a threat to national security and the safety of our families. It's only a matter of time before foreign hackers or criminals exploit them in ways that undermine American national security, Wyden told Reuters. The government shouldn't have any role in planting secret backdoors and encryption technology used by Americans, he continued. The agency refused to comment on its updated policies on current backdoor processes. NSA officials did say they were in the rebuilding trust phase with the private sector. Okay, so again, here we have an issue, you guys. Unelected officials, government agencies and officials being above the law and doing whatever they want to do, and they have no accountability, especially not to the American citizens. How have they been giving carte blanche to ignore and dodge questions, direct questions and just give legally scripted answers such as, you know, we're working with, rebuilding our relationships, with the private sector. That's not an answer. And it's common practice to constantly assess processes to identify and determine best practices, said Ann Neuberger, who heads NSA's year-old cybersecurity directorate. We don't share specific processes and procedures. Oh, so you get to arbitrarily decide what you will and will not share with the American people? Shouldn't there be an oversight committee somewhere? A real one, not just a fake one, that actually has access to walk up into their office and do audits? Huh? In the banking finance sector, audits go on all the time. You don't play with the SEC. How come there's no SEC for the NSA? Shouldn't there be a SEC for the NSA to make sure no abuses of power are happening? How can the NSA guarantee the American people that there is no abuse of power happening, that there is no conspiracy happening, that there is no corruption happening? How can they do that? They can't assure you of anything. 3 former senior intelligence agency officials told Reuters that before a backdoor operation is conducted, the agency must weigh the potential fallout and arrange for some kind of warning if the backdoor gets discovered and manipulated by adversaries. Critics of the agency's spy tools say backdoors create targets for adversaries and undermine U.S. technology trust among buyers across the world. According to Juniper, in 2015, a foreign adversary used the NSA's backdoor in its equipment. The NSA told Wyden's aides in 2018 the Juniper incident was a lesson learned. Reuters cites one of the clearest examples of the NSA working with private tech firms to build backdoors. NSA's approach involved an encryption system component known as dual elliptic curve, or dual EC. The intelligence agency worked with the Commerce Department to get the technology accepted as a global standard, but cryptographers later showed that the NSA could exploit dual EC to access encrypted data. What this all suggests is that Snowden's revelations of NSA spy tools really didn't change the agency's practices over the last 7 years. Backdoors are still being used as the surveillance state marches on. And this is just how it is. They are accountable to no one. This intelligence committee has no power or authority whatsoever. It's all bread and circus and theater for you, the American people, so it can appear as if the NSA is under the the scrutiny of this intelligence committee. Intelligence committee has nothing. They have no power, no teeth. They can't do nothing. They can just grill you, make it seem like they're really trying to protect the American people. But if all they do is dance around the questions and give Fed speak, what's really being accomplished by this? The answer is nada. All right. It's just theater for you, the American people. So you can think that your government cares about you, which they don't. Okay? They don't. They don't care. So let's talk about what really happened yesterday. Let's just peep a little bit of what we know and what we saw. Now, I know everyone who listens to the broadcast, you're not traders. You're not even investors. A massive opening sale program that hit the markets yesterday. Okay? And you can't ignore that. When I say massive sale program, I mean massive. It was the 4th biggest one of the year. Okay. And it pushed the NASDAQ down 7% from mid-October's bounce highs and into the red for the month, along with the S&P, the Dow, and small caps holding gains for now. Meanwhile, the bond route appears to be over for now. But everything got smashed. Large sale programs. Remember what I was telling you about the efficiency or lack thereof because of robots being allowed to take over the market. All right. And traditionally, you're not supposed to be able to move markets so easily. But when you have a lot of money being dumped in a particular way, it can negatively affect certain markets. To just traditionally, the stock index futures are mad liquid. Crude oil futures, mad liquid. U.S. bond futures, mad liquid. Euro dollar futures, mad liquid. That was tradition. But as you've seen in 2020, that tradition is out the window. It doesn't matter anymore. They can push markets and do whatever they want to do whenever they feel like it. And that's not supposed to happen. Something has happened with the liquidity servers. There's some kind of way that they've allowed themselves to be breached and manipulated. They also have turned off all the circuit breakers. Remember back in the day, for those of you who remember the go-go 90s, there were circuit breakers in place and they weren't too far away from the market. They had circuit breakers for a reason, ladies and gentlemen, so that you wouldn't wake up one morning and the Dow was down 2,000-3,000 points. They turned those things off long ago for no reason, no good reason. The Dow circuit breaker was about 300 points, 350 points. The NASDAQ 100 was the same as the Dow, about 350 points. And then the S&P back then was like 65 points, I believe. 65 points was the E-mini S&P 500. Crude oil never had a limit, and neither did the bond futures. I think the bond futures had one, a brief one. It was like 2 points, I think, and that lasted for a minute. And now they turned that off. Okay, those curbs were very important. Okay, those circuit breakers were very important, and it was designed to prevent movement like that, so that the market won't be down 1,000 points. They even had an uptick rule. They've done away with all of that, ladies and gentlemen. And you have to ask yourself, I wonder why that is. Now they came back recently and they've turned the circuit breakers back on. But the circuit breakers are not your daddy and granddaddy circuit breakers. The new circuit breakers are thousands of points and or a certain percentage. They go by percentages now. So the market's down 5%, 7%, then that's when your circuit breaker kicks in. But that could be thousands of points. See what I'm saying? So that's something to think about. It's just crazy the times we're living in. And you need to think about it. You need to think about where we are and how in the world we get here. And this also goes back to my point that I've always been proving throughout the years. That for the most part, people ain't going to do nothing. These little riots and protests have nothing to do with what's going on. The riots and protests are being bought and paid for by George Soros and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and other nefarious organizations, all right, that are funding and financing Antifa and Black Lives Matter. But what can the past teach us about what's going on today? Well, here's something that is often alluded to but never really broken down, and that's the Hunt brothers back in the day. What can we learn about the Hunt brothers from back in the day? Well, how about this quote? Almost anything is better than paper money. Any fool can run a printing press. That's a quote from Nelson Bunker Hunt. A year ago, the phrase gamma squeeze would have caught many on Wall Street, most astute investors, off guard. Now, today, both traditional and social media regularly parrot that phrase. It won't be long before the shoeshine kid tells the bank president about his gamma squeeze exploits. A gamma squeeze is just the latest innovation in centuries of market manipulation schemes. Given this activity is a source of significant volatility and instability, and it is worth exploring. Okay. There is a tweet by Chris Cole at Artemis Capital that read, Flows have killed fundamentals. U.S. market is now the derivative of the U.S. options market, a Frankenstein monster patched together by liquidity injections and gamma. All right, something you guys need to be aware of, okay? Think about this powerful statement just for a second. Essentially, Chris states that stocks are now a derivative of stocks. This is an absurd figment of our imagination, right? Maybe wrong, right? What about these Hunt brothers? To provide historical context on market manipulation, we look back at an asset squeeze for the ages. In the 1970s, before most of you were even born, the Hunt brothers, Nelson, Lamar, and William, had extensive holdings in oil, real estate, cattle, and sugar. Concerned about the effects of what they believed to be careless monetary careless monetary and fiscal policies, as well as risks of the newly formed oil cartel named OPEC, they set out to hedge their businesses and assets. Since it was still illegal for individual investors to own gold, they chose a hedge with physical silver. Now, the Hunt brothers began buying silver in 1973, acquiring futures contracts, which were equivalent to 55 million ounces of silver. At the time, the price of silver per ounce was trading at $1.50 an ounce on the futures market. And over the next 6 years, the Hunts grew their holdings well over 200 million ounces, worth more than $4.5 billion. Okay. By 1979, their activity prompted actions by the Commodities Futures Trading Exchange, CFTC, and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, known as COMEX. Now, both entries sought to restrict their buying and forced liquidations. Silver nearly hit $50 per ounce in mid-January of 1980 and then fell to $10 per ounce by the end of March. So within a 3-month time period, it dropped from $50 to $10. Now, at that point, margin calls on futures contracts and borrowings against existing silver holdings depleted all of the Hunt brothers' cash. They were forced to liquidate silver to cover margin debts. Okay. Now, leverage can be a two-edged sword. It works in your favor when you're having asset appreciations and you take long positions, and likewise if you take massive short positions. Now, the Hunts initially took physical delivery of silver and did not use leverage. Over time, though, they understood the power of using their silver as collateral to buy more silver. Now, buying silver futures on margin meant they could influence the price at a fraction of the cost. Such leverage allowed them to multiply their purchasing power and drive silver prices higher. The only demand on the Hunts was to have enough cash to fund their futures margin account adequately. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you call cornering a market. The Hunt brothers successfully cornered the silver futures market. Now, in addition to the CFTC and COMEX efforts, the Federal Reserve also played a role in breaking the Hunt brothers. The Fed chairman, Paul Volcker, sharply raised interest rates in January of 1980 from 11.75% all the way to 20%. You heard it correctly. Almost doubling the interest rate from 11.75% in January of 1980 to 20%, making borrowing for the Hunts much more expensive and difficult. 1 week after the Hunts shut down their silver market activity, Volcker began lowering the interest rates. Leverage allowed the Hunts to distort the price of silver, but it also killed their scheme. They lost over $1.1 billion on the trade. They also lost civil charges. which in part led them to declare bankruptcy. The Tiffany's had an advertisement that described their economic effect of the hunts and what it had on other industries. Now, you can already understand what that most likely means. Of course, they were told to do this. This is a big ad they took out. It says, "We think it is unconscionable for anyone to hoard several billion, yes, $1 billion worth of silver and thus drive the price up so high that others must pay artificially high prices for articles made of silver, from baby spoons to tea sets, and well as photographic film and other products." And that's a big old ad that they had that Tiffany placed in the New York Times on Wednesday, March the looks like the 24th or 26th in 1980. Yeah, man, you can't make this stuff up. Now, what are delta and gamma? Now, the Hunt brothers used leverage and brute force to corner the silver market. Today's traders employ a more refined technique, but one that relies on leverage. The gamma well, which many think is SoftBank, provides a lesson on how a gamma squeeze operates. All right, so before explaining the scheme, let's define option delta and gamma. Now, delta quantifies the rate of change of the option's price per the change in the underlying stock price. Now, a delta of 50 means the options price will increase 50 cents for every $1 in the stock. Delta is not a linear function, meaning it will not change proportionately with the stock price. Gamma quantifies how delta will change per the change in the stock price. Now, the charts that you can pull this stuff up, and you can see how the nonlinear S-like shape of the delta and the gamma curve, look. Now, options trade on leverage, and they were designed and built on the Black-Scholes model, which I have to tell you, the vice president of the first firm I worked at had did some research and wrote a thesis on it. He showed the error in the Black-Scholes model, and that was one of his claims to fame. So take my hat off to him. He's one of the best mathematicians I haven't known or met. So options trade on leverage of sorts as a relatively small option premium that can control many shares. Now, in most cases, the premium is a tiny fraction of the price of the underlying shares. However, if the option is in the money at expiration, the options holders take delivery of the underlying stock and must pay fully for the shares. In most cases, options traders sell the option or roll it to a future month to avoid payment. What about this gamma well? Well, the gamma well owns a portfolio of stocks. Like all investors, they want the value of their stocks to rise. Now, to better their odds, they buy short-dated call options on stocks they already own. All right, so that is a covered trade at that point because you're already long the shares. So like the Hunt's use of silver futures, the well can more efficiently manipulate share prices higher using the leverage in the options market. So a gamma squeeze relies on the hedging actions of options dealers. The banks and brokers, who are the largest sellers of options, must hedge their trades. Most dynamically hedge, meaning they frequently adjust the hedge amount according to the delta of the option. If the delta is at 0.35, then they buy 35 shares for every option contract that are short. If the delta then rises to 40, they buy 5 more shares. Conversely, they sell when the delta falls. If the whale buys enough calls, they can trigger a gamma squeeze. The option purchases force the dealers to buy the stock, which pushes the share price higher. Now, as this happens, the dealer's buying activity increases the delta at a non-linear rate, which is called gamma. Now, in circular fashion, dealers then must buy more of the stock and on and so forth. Like hunt strategy, this one works as long as you can keep buying calls and the stock price keeps rising. As the hunts found out, that is not always the whale and others face, though. However, one, if they elect to sell the calls, the dealers will also sell underlying stocks, which hurts their underlying large share position. Second, the popularity of such strategies results in increased options premiums, making it costlier to execute. Third, since they do not take delivery of the underlying stock, they have to continue to roll the positions until they sell the underlying stock. Again, selling the option will force dealer selling. Further, there are times they may not want to buy or roll calls, such as heading into the coming election or at quarter or year end when there's a lot of window dressing. Dealers will get tired of being on the losing end of a trade and purposely push stock prices lower. Lower prices have the reverse effect as dealers must sell when delta declines. It is also worth considering the whale can short a stock and then buy puts to create a squeeze, but one that pushes share prices lower. All right. In summary, what do we have? The Hunt brothers scheme failed because they relied on leverage. The gamma squeeze also depends on leverage and the willingness of important market participants. Okay. You got to have all these different moving parts. Now, if the cost of leverage goes up or the intermediaries of the trade become reluctant, then the music of the gamma trade will stop. Now, once the Hunts began using leverage, they gave the game back to the establishment, government, banks, and the Rockefellers. Like the Hunt brothers, the gamma trade squeeze relies on the banks to lose money. As the Hunt brothers can attest, do not bet against the establishment, the banks, and those who sponsor them, i.e. the Fed. Equity prices and valuations have lost all relationship to from economic reality. Now, gamma induced surges are yet another example of the false market foundation. Ignoring the inherent risk may be pleasant when the market rises, but at the same time, instability soars. Okay. So it's always good to look back into history and see, how things became to where they are today so you can learn some lessons from the past. All right. The government came in and shut the Hunt brothers down and said, no, the price of silver is not $50. The new price of silver is $10. They did that. They proved to you that they can bring the market prices down to whatever level they feel like and whenever they want to. And then they raised the interest rates to 20%. So they were willing to hurt an entire country with the interest rates just to stop the Hunt brothers from cornering the silver market. And you want to know something that is still going on today? Instead of the Fed doing it themselves, they've authorized Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and other places and Deutsche Bank to manipulate the physical market for them. But it's still going on today. You need to know that. All right. These things happen in these markets. That's one of the reasons why we choose to get involved in these markets, because we go in understanding and knowing this ahead of time. So we're not caught off guard and we can manipulate that. We can use that to our advantage. See, this is why a lot of hedge funds and stuff be closing up shop, because once these loopholes get closed, they can't make money anymore. Notice how you didn't hear anything about trading in that last example. You heard diddly about trading. It was about manipulating the market. It was about manipulating the market. It had nothing to do with trading. See what I'm saying? That's why I do what I do, because of all the things that they do. So my whole outlook is, let's put the power back to the people. Let me show you what it is they do and how they do it. This time, we can benefit from it instead of, being hurt by it. Now, last, I'm going to just want to touch on something else that they love keeping stuff out of the news. No one's talking about Hunter Biden because they want you to think that Biden has pretty much sewn up the election. But did you know that Hunter Biden's documents mysteriously vanished from an overnight envelope, according to Tucker Carlson? All right, and this is from Ivan Pentuvikov via the Epic Times. A collection of confidential documents related to the Biden family mysteriously vanished from an envelope sent to Fox News host Tucker Carlson, the host said on Wednesday night. Carlson's team allegedly received the documents from a source on Monday, but at the time, Carlson was on the West Coast filming an interview with Tony Bobulinski, the former business partner of Hunter Biden and James Biden. Carlson requested the documents to be sent to the West Coast. According to Carlson, the producer shipped the documents overnight to California using a large national package carrier. He didn't name the company, saying only that it is a brand name company. The Biden documents never arrived in Los Angeles. Tuesday morning, we received word from our shipping company that our package had been opened and the contents were missing, Carlson said. The documents had disappeared. That means inside job at the post office, or should I say whoever that carrier is, whether it be UPS or FedEx. They had an inside man they were able to get and do. See, they already had, to me, this is proof that they already have the whole election process already under wraps, because they already have a system in place where they can manipulate documents and envelopes. If they can do this to him, what are they doing and prepared to do to your mail-in voting? Now, the company took the incident seriously and immediately began a search, Carlson said. The company traced the package from when it was dropped off in New York to the moment when an employee at a sorting facility reported that the package was opened and empty. The company's security team interviewed every employee who touched the envelope that we sent. They searched the plane and the trucks that carried it. They went through the office in New York where our producers dropped the package off. They combined they combed the entire canvas sorting facility. They used pictures of what we had sent to the searchers who know what to look for, Carlson said. They far and beyond, but they found nothing. Those documents have vanished, he added. As of tonight, the company has no idea and no working theory even about what happened to this trove of materials, documents that are directly relevant to the presidential campaign just 6 days from now. Again, corruption. Executives at the shipping company were baffled and deeply bothered by the incident, Carlson said. Now, to be fair, all right, they probably had no idea that there was a inside man working in the company that is working with whoever. All right, you got a spy, you got someone there that is now on the up and up. They've already, so if they've installed these people at different places, this should tell you what we can expect moving forward next week. Now, Carlson's interview with the Bobulinski aired on Tuesday night. In an interview, Bobulinski opined that Joe Biden and the Biden family are compromised by China due to the business dealings of Hunter Biden and James Biden. Joe Biden was not publicly Joe Biden has not publicly responded to Bobulinski's allegations, but during a presidential debate on October the 22nd, he said he had not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life. Bobulinski provided more than 1,700 pages of emails and more than 600 screenshots of text messages to Senate investigators and handed over to the FBI the smartphones he used during his business dealings with the Bidens. The documents detailed a failed joint venture between a billionaire tied to the Chinese Communist Party and a company owned by Hunter Biden, James Biden, and Bobulinski and two other partners. While the corporate documents don't mention Biden by name, email sent between the partners suggests that either James Biden or Hunter Biden held a 10% stake for the former vice president. In the email, the stake is assigned to the big guy, who Bobulinski says is Joe Biden. All right, here's my thing. Why would they, in a day like today? I mean, maybe they didn't think about this. I don't know. But in today's day, all right, you know the way the world operates. This is what happens when you don't believe nothing. You try to debunk everything. You don't believe that conspiracies are taking place right now. So now Tucker Carlson has now have his baptism by fire to realize just how deep the rabbit hole goes. But here's something for you, Tucker. Why we have technology today? Why didn't you just scan the things and put them in a PDF? Why not do that? And then you could have just plopped it right in Dropbox or some other type technology that they could have easily downloaded themselves right there on the spot. That way you didn't have to worry about packages and things getting lost. Okay. Now, to be fair, packages have and do go missing or get damaged and stuff like that. We've all been there. But in his case, his envelope was open and the documents were taken out. How did people know what was in that? Mainly when theft is going to happen is usually, it's some type of, product or something. People are stealing iPods, iPhones, computers, laptops, cameras, technology, stuff like that, which I hope you guys are prepared for this because I see this happening on a large scale in November, not just because of the election, but don't forget a lot of people pre-order PlayStations and Xboxes. How many of those do you think are going to go missing? Employees working at FedEx and working at UPS and working at the Postal Service who can't afford to get it or wasn't able to cop one during the pre-sale. I guarantee you're going to start hearing reports of Xboxes and PlayStations going up missing and vanishing. So get ready for that too, ladies and gentlemen. We live in some strange times for sure. All right, so just wanted you guys to get an idea of what we've been dealing with here. It's a lot. We've been dealing with a lot, ladies and gentlemen. And I just wanted you guys to be up on game so you could know exactly where we are and where we're headed. And like I said, man, there's so much more for me to talk about, but I would be on here literally all day. So we have to break this thing down into some segments or something. All right, we have to break it down into sections and segments because we just don't have a enough time. It's just not enough time in a day to go over all the things that I would like to go over. So it is what it is. All right. I'm out of here. Y'all know what it is. PulseWaveTrading.com. And remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I am out. Peace. Don't forget to smash that like button. And you know what to do. I'm out.